Hi, and welcome to our straight and simple Gemara shiur. We are advancing Baruch Hashem in Gemara Masechet Shabbos. Daf Kuf Mem Vav Amud Aleph is where we're holding. We are in the middle of the page Kuf Mem Vav in the words Tanya Chada. The line starts with the word Shma Mina. Yeah, a few lines below the Mishnah, and then we have the line Tanya Chada. We definitely have to give a little bit of a summary of what we did yesterday. The topic is a very, very hot topic of opening bottles and cans and wrappers on Shabbos, the snack bags and all that. It's a very vast issue. We gave a lot of introduction yesterday, even halacha l'maisa a little bit. I think we'll just start with the Gemara, and as we go along, I will go back and project back on what we said yesterday and give you from yesterday's summary and continue as we go along into the new part of the Sugya. Tanya Chada, one brisa says as follows: Tanya Chada, Choislois shel grogros v'shel tmorim. What are choislois shel grogros v'shel tmorim? This is a new term that definitely applies to 2025 in every Jewish home. Chotalot or choslos basically are one like disposable bags. Do you know the disposable bags actually existed in the times of the Gemara? They're not made out of plastic, which wasn't invented yet, but the choislois were basically like lattice work of leaves of lulav, leaves of the palm tree. Yeah, the leaves of the palm tree. Look at images of lulav leaves. So if they were like intertwined together, you'd put in them the goy or the tmori, all kinds of fruit, the figs or the dates, which were not yet ripe, and they would ripen in that bag-like thing. Now, how would you eat them when they became ripe? What would you do? Well, you tear apart. Imagine very much like the Bisley bag, yeah? You tear apart the different strands of the lulav, yeah, of the palm tree, and you open it. There are three different ways of how you'd open it. And the question is, just like you have a question with your 3 years old child or grandchild, can I open the Bisley Bamba bag? Yeah, it existed already then. The poskim definitely connect the two. These are choislas. Choislas are the lowest of the kelim. It's not even a kli. The Rishonim define choslos as, you know what? As just like you can open a nut in order to get into the nut, right? And the nut is the main thing, and that's allowed on Shabbos. So too, you're allowed to open those choslos on Shabbos, generally speaking. I'm telling you what choslos are. Choslos are those bags, yeah, made out of like lattice work, like a network, yeah, of many strands of like the kosher of Sukkot. Yeah, that's good, right? You know the kosher right? Everybody knows kosher of when you hold your lulav and esrog, your lulav. The way I imagine it, the way I understand it, it's a primitive way of kosher where inside you have the fruit, and the fruit ripen in them. You tear it apart and you get into the fruit. Are you allowed to open them? Well, I already gave it away. Do you need them as gun? You want the air condition? If you want the whatever. Tanya Chada, choisla shel goygos v'shel tmorim. There are three ways how you can do them. Matir means if they are tied with a string, yeah, there's a knot, you're allowed to open them. Matir, you're allowed to open it on Shabbos, assuming that the knot is not too strong. We're not going to the question of kosher. Let's say it's not a real kesher shel kayoma. You're allowed to be matir. Umafkia. I just want to make sure. Rashi says kosher bechevel. Yeah, it's a chevel. It's a rope, and you're allowed to open it. I guess it's a week or very short-term kind of kesher, which you're allowed to open on Shabbos. Okay. Umafkia. You're allowed to be mafkia to break it apart. Take a knife and actually break the whole thing apart. Break the lattice, that kind of lattice work, that kind of crisscross. You're allowed to open it. Or the choisech, instead of opening a zoi, you can just cut through also with a knife. So the first action is done with your hands, and the breaking or cutting, and I'm using a knife now, cutting with a knife, that's done with a knife. Okay, and all that is allowed. Why? Because this is even less than mustaki. Right? Yesterday, I promised you, I'll talk about yesterday's shiur. Yesterday, I spoke about the mustaki. Mustaki is the kli. Mustaki is the kli, but it's a low class kind of kli. You know, it's called mustaki. You know, how do you call chewing gum in Hebrew? Mastik. Mastik. You know that? Yeah. So now mustiki is actually like a gum. You take old pieces of cheres, yeah, of clay that were broken, and you basically re-glue them together with a mastic. That's what's called mustiki. That's what I read today. But because it's already been broken and remade once, it's a very low class kind of kli. That was yesterday's kli we spoke about mustaki. Mustaki, you're allowed to break, generally speaking, in order to get what's inside. And what's the equivalent of mustaki? Today's tin can. Your tuna, your sardine, your corn, right? They all come where? It's a kli. It's a kli. And your old aunt from Harlem, I don't know, she still stayed there, or Bnei Brak, she still puts her little stuff, her little things, or bits and pieces in that kli. But most people throw it in the garbage. It's a very low class kind of kli, a tin can. And that's how you're allowed to open it, generally speaking. I'm not asking halacha. I usually follow Shlomo Zalman, and this is the sheer more like in his, in his, by his mindset. This one is even better. Why? This is mustaki is very garbagey. It's just a few pieces of strands. That's like the bag. This is like the bamba bag, the snack bag. Yeah? Nobody reuses a snack bag that I've seen. The guy needs, if anybody reuses snack bags, I think they need, I don't want to be judgmental, I think they need psychiatric help, unless they're very crazy hoarders or very crazy recycling people. But most of us, 99% of humanity, don't reuse, yeah, I'm saying. So that is even more lakula. Yeah, that's even more lakula, and that even the Chazon Ish would allow you to open, as far as I know. Okay, now Vitanya Idach, another brisa tells us regarding the same mustaki matir, you are allowed to untie the knot that's on the mustaki, that's tied on the mustaki. No, on the choislois. On the choislois, you have a knot, you're allowed to undo the knot. Avaloi mafkia avelo choisech. You're not allowed to use a knife. And once you use the knife in order to break through or make a nice cut, that's not allowed. Why? What's the problem using a knife? I thought it's okay to open the bag. It's a nothing. Answers the Gemara, no. The issue has nothing to do with soser or bona. It's an issue of muktzeh. The one who doesn't allow you to use a knife for the choslos is the famous Tana who is very, very machmir in muktzeh. What's his name? Everybody knows. Answers the Gemara, lo kasha, Rabbanan or Rabbi Nechemia. The ones who allow you to do everything with your bisley bag slash choslos or rabbanon. Of course, you can take a regular kitchen knife in order to cut the choslos, those bags. Uh-huh. Rabbi Nechemia, as we saw and we're going to see now, is a much more of a hard liner when it comes to muktzeh. Rabbi Nechemia applies the concept of muktzeh even for things that are not muktzeh. What do you mean? Well, we know. What does Rabbi Nechemia hold? You're only allowed to take what? A kli and use it for its original purpose. And knives are normally not used, at least in the times of the Gemara, knives were meant for food, for meat, for lahavdil cheese, for tomatoes, for whatever. If you take a knife and all you do with the knife is cut the bag, that's not good already for Ibn Nechemia, because you're not using the kli for its original purpose. It's a famous Ibn Nechemia, we've seen it many times. The Tanya, here comes the original text. The Tanya says in the Brisa, Ibn Nechemia Omer, afilu talvad, even a spoon, either a tarvad is a big one, a ladle, a tarvad, vafilu talis, even your garment, vafilu sakin. What's afilu? All these things are absolutely allowed to be used in Shabbos. This is an example, a gallery of things that are not muktzah. These are regular kalim. I'm using spoons all the time, a knife, a bag, a talis. You're allowed to use them on Shabbos. There was never a gzera on those, right? There was a gzera on everything except for those. Even these, the most kosher kelim on Shabbos, according to Rabbi Nechemia, and nitalin ela letzorch tashmishan. They're only used for their own original use. And since you're not meant to use the knife for a bag, that's not the accepted use. Mimela, according to Rabbi Nechemia, you can't do it on Shabbos. Which I want to explain the logic of Rabbi Nechemia, so people don't think that we have this Rabbi Nechemia floating around everywhere. What the Rabbi Nechemia makes a lot of sense to those who understand what muktzah is, and we all understand what's muktzah. What's muktzah? Muktzah means that on Shabbos you're not allowed to change things on Shabbos. That's if you really learn Shabbos be'iyun, you realize Hashem doesn't want you to create changes in the middle of Shabbos. So if I have something like a hammer, right, and now I want to use it for, I don't know, for something else. Actually, it's not a good example. If I, let's say stone, a stone is not a kli, right? I want to take the stone and use it as a kli. I'm making it into a kli in the middle of Shabbos. That's also right. Let's say muktzeh. Let's talk about another concept of muktzeh. Muktzeh machmas cheson kis. You have some very, very expensive tool that nobody's supposed to touch. This is daddy's surgeon tools. He's a surgeon in Mount Sinai. Well, I assume he doesn't keep his stuff at home. Hopefully, he keeps it in the clinic. Let's say he keeps it home. Nobody touches that. Let's say in the middle of Shabbos, he becomes naughty and he decides yes to use it. You're not allowed to because you're changing from purpose A, which is brain surgery, into purpose B to cut your herring. Yeah, that you cannot do. Oh, now we can understand why Rabbi Nechemi says what he says. Rabbi Nechemi says same idea, right? Even if the thing is very kosher, clean, but that kli was meant for ice cream and you're using it in order to whatever was used for challah knife, and you're now using it for a bag, for your bisley bag, which you normally don't cut with a knife, that is also change of tafkid. You're changing the role of the kli. Rabbi Nechemia says, I don't like that. Well, don't worry, we don't paskin like Rabbi Nechemia. We don't paskin like Rabbi Nechemia. If you find difficulty with your too hard milk carton and you can't do it with your hands, you can use a knife. Yeah, that's beseder because we don't paskin like Rabbi Nechemia. I promised you yesterday, and I will fulfill my promise now, Be'ezras Hashem, before we continue to the next part of the sugya. What's Rabbi Shlomo Zalman's opinion about opening cans of drink on Shabbos? Yeah, yeah, I have a can of soda, a can of orange juice, whatever, a can of something. Can you open the can? Pun unintended. Yeah. Can you open the can on Shabbos? Why is it worse than all the other things? Because the higher can is also something you drink, you share with your friends, you drink, you keep it in the fridge for I don't know how long, and then you throw it in the garbage. So a can is somewhere between mustaki and choislos. It's not a high class kli. It's not reusable. Who reuses a can? I mean, I don't know. But Ken has another problem, and that is that when you open the that little strap, how do you call it in English? That leshonit, you know what I mean? The that little piece of metal that you pull up, right? Yeah. The tab, thank you. When you open the tab in order, and then you create a hole, maybe it's a problem of a different av malacha called mechatich, right? It's not soser, not bone, it's mechatich. Why? Because mechatich means mechatich by definition is when you make a very nice, perfect, beautiful opening, cutting to your size. Says Roshal Zalman, no, you're not cutting to your size. Cutting to your size means I have all kinds of different options. Let's say with the toilet paper. You want to cut 1 square, 2 or 3 square? I choose 3, 4, whatever. Here, you just want to make a nekev. We're going to learn later that making a nekev, a hole, nekev means an unprofessional, ugly, regular hole, yeah? I'm, generally speaking, allowed to make a hole even in a chovis that stays for a long time. Yeah, chovis of mustaki at least, a yar. Here too, I would just like to make a hole anywhere in the can, right? Let's say there were cans, I don't know, 70 years ago. I don't think they came with that tab, right? So what did people do? You puncture it. You puncture whichever way you want. Happens to be, says Moshe Zalman, the factory chose for me a convenient place to do it, but we've done it anyways. I'm not trying to make a shape here or cut to my favorite size. The factory, it's as if the guy from the factory who made the cans told me, hey, mister, here's a good place to open it. Yeah, but I don't mind opening it any other place either. And again, here. Happens to be here. It's convenient for me because it's just I don't have to start fighting with the metal, right? That's all. But be'etzem, it's not mechatech. It's not like I'm choosing like to cut one picture out of the newspaper rather than all the other pictures, which is mechatech. Therefore, says Rosh Hashanah, it's not mechatech. And the other reason he says is because the chavis, sorry, the pachit, the can, the coal can, or whichever can, will very easily, very soon find its way to the garbage can, to the trash can. So the whole thing is nothing, he says. The whole thing is a garnished, it's a mustaki, it's a garnished or choislois, and therefore mechatech doesn't apply to that. I'm not creating a creation of art over here. Ask your rabbi. I do know that some people are machmir, and I also prefer it that way to do finish the coke ASAP. Because when you finish it quickly, then it's less of a problem. When you store it in the fridge, then some people will tell you it's more long lasting. It gives it more chashivus. You know what I'm saying? So it's kedai maybe to finish the drink as soon as you can. Ask your rabbi. There are different opinions, but there is such an idea because again, the sooner you throw it in the garbage, the less choshev it is, the less permanent. All of Shabbos is about how permanent it is. That's a general idea. Very good. Baba name of Sheshes. Comes the following question. They ask the question from Rav Sheshes. Ma'u lemivraz chavita beburtia beshabta. Is a person allowed to take a burtia is in English it is some kind of romach. It's no, it's like a fighting a spear, 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 a spear. Thank you. Yeah, Jason with the art scroll. Thank you. It's a spear. I know Romach is a spear. Thank you. Are you allowed to take a spear, a Roman soldier style, and you want to take the spear in order to make a hole in the chavis on Shabbos? Is that okay or not? What's the question? Before we continue, I'll read the words of the Gemara and then explain the background. The Gemara is tutznadim. You're taking a spear, making a hole in the barrel on Shabbos in order to let the wine out or whatever you have inside, the figs or whatever. Do we say lepitcha kemechaven v'oser? Do we say the person's kavanah is to make a nice lechatchila, good-looking hole, and that's going to be the official hole of the chavis, and that's oser, because you are boine or maki bepatish. You're not creating the final good lechatchila dike hole in the chovis. That will be the spout. That will be the hole which will serve you to this. Maybe it's not considered a professional kind of hole. You only want to get a lot of wine out of the chovis more than the regular wine. Let me explain. When you make a hole with a spear, why are you making with a spear? You're crazy. Why don't you use a regular knife, right? A spear is something which makes a hole that's bigger than normal and uglier than normal. It's not the normal way of doing it. You didn't take some nice round professional piece to make the hole. You took something very provisory, very unprofessional, and you just stab it. And the hole is bigger and uglier, which means if I want to make a nice hole, I would make a nice round hole with a lot of patience, make a good, nice petach, good looking petach, something that looks like the Coke can, but the way I would do it. And therefore, maybe it's usher. Or maybe you say no. Maybe Lamaisa, the spear, is not something that creates a nice hole. You just want to get more wine out of it, more than the regular hole. You're making an unprofessional, kind of illegal, abnormal kind of hole, and you just want to get the wine out. You're not building now, "Oh, this is a nice surah, this is how I want my chovis to look like." You just want to get more wine out. You want to get more wine, more of the amount than usual. So you took a horrible looking kli, you're making a horrible but big, big kind of hole. You get more of it out. I once read in one of the funny jokes in the magazine, they said, one of the frustration in life is that sometimes they tell you to open the can or the milk of the carton of milk on one side, and it's so complicated, you end up doing it for the illegal side. They made fun, Kilu, the illegal side. Apparently in Allah it's true. There are certain holes that are considered to be Pesach Yofe, which the Rishonim keep talking about over here, and that's Osir, that's called Boine Makim Patish, or you just make a hole, like you puncture something in an illegal way, and that's not called Boine. Think of your milk of carton. Let's say, whichever reason you don't want to open the nice opening in the top that's designed just for you, like Tetra Pak. And what do? You take a knife and you stab it in the middle of the milk carton. That's not the normal way of doing it. And you can't say this is a machin bepatich of my carton. Forget about the fact carton milk is not a mustaki, but even without that, yeah, it's not the normal way of doing it. So how do we judge that kind of Pesach? Do we say that's nice and normal, how we view it, or do we say no, it's time, a way to get more wine out? Omar Lay, so he said no, bad news. Lepitcha kamechavin v'osir, yes, that hole, Lemaisa, is the only hole that's there, right? It's the only hole that's there, and we're going to explain why more later on. And you want to make a Pesach at the end of the day, that will be from now on your official Pesach from the side, and it's also, I want to tell you something. The Rashi says over here, yeah, 1 second. Oh, okay, no, I'll say it, the Rashi later on. Okay, we're going to explain more based on the question we're going to ask. So right now, what are we saying? You made a hole in the Bortia with that warfare kind of kli, made a hole that may not look official, but lemaisa we assume the person's kavana that's going to be the hole of that chavis from now on. For him, that's good enough. For him, that's nice enough. And you want to make a pesach, and it's also for you. That's a pesach, and it's also. I frag the Gemara, Mesivi. Didn't we see otherwise? Let's see a brisa that says the opposite. Ab Shimon Gamliel Oimer, maybe Adam Chavis Shel Yain. A person may bring a Chavis Shel Yain, yeah, a barrel of wine, and over there it says it was used for Orchim. I'll tell you soon something important. A person brings a chavis of wine in front of his guests. Yeah, the chavis of wine is a barrel of wine. It has a big lid on top called megufa. And what does he do? Instead of opening the megufa, the chavis, you know the shape of a chavis, it goes and becomes narrower in the top, and the top of the chavis is not so big. So what does the guy do? Mate is roisha beside. Instead of opening the lid and serving them like a mensch, he takes again a scythe, again a war kind of weapon, and he beheads. Mate is roisha means to behead. He cuts off the head of the chovis. Instead of just removing the top, he actually removes some of the chovis itself. Yeah, he cuts off the head of the chovis itself, and that's allowed. Why? What's the difference? If you're telling me that any kind of opening with any kind of crazy tool is not okay, it's also, excuse me, how come it was yes okay, yeah, to take the knife, the sword, and behead the chavis and serve it to the guests? Why is it okay over there and not okay over here when I'm making a hole in the side? And says the Gemara, here comes the punchline. Hasam vadelan yofaka mechavin. Yeah. Ocho, im yisad al yofak de le'ain yofaka mechavin uptuchim miftach. Very, very easy. Thing is like this. Over there, why didn't he open the official opening in the top? Yeah. Why didn't he open it nice, like a gentleman, open it and just unplug it, open and uncap it, right? Why did he make the whole slash in the bottom? Because he wants more wine to be served. He's just looking for a bigger Pesach. He's looking for a bigger Pesach. And that's why he's not making the ideal Pesach, he's making the bigger Pesach. Why is he making the bigger Pesach? Because he has guests. Ah, now we understand. The guy has surprise guests. His Schwiger and all his friends and his Schwer and his son-in-law and his I don't know who else, the entire army, they all came to him for Shabbos all of a sudden, and he's belachatz. Now, what does he want to do? He can't just open the top and start serving them. He wants to have the whole thing gushing over. He wants to serve many people. And therefore, that opening is not the best, nicest one. It's a bigger one. When you just want to extend and make a bigger hole, that's allowed on Shabbos. Because that's called kilkul. Kilkul is also on Shabbos. We said yesterday, kilkul is also on Shabbos, but it's mutter if it's for tzorich achila or tzorich Shabbos. What about the boot? Yeah, if I took a spear and I spear it on the side, a puncture on the side, that is not called la'ayin yofa. Why? Very, very easy. You're telling me I just want a bigger Pesach? No, mapitom. The bigger Pesach would be to open from the top. If you want to, in other words, it's very, very easy. It's just a question of numbers. If this is the chavis, this is the megufa that's smaller. I'm opening it from here, I'm opening bigger. Yeah, that's why it's allowed. Masha'en can, if I only make one hole here, even if it's a biggish kind of hole, but lemaisa, if I really want a lot of wine out, I should take this off. Meaning the top is bigger than the small hole over here. Why making a small hole over here? You're saying I'm making a big hole? No, but this would be bigger. You don't have an excuse. I'm just making a conveniently bigger hole and I'm not making the ideal one. No, you are making what's ideal for you because you want this to be your hole. If you wanted just more wine to get out, you'd have built like a mensch and just uncap it. Just open it from the top. You didn't open the top. You used the a relatively smaller Pesach. It's a question of numbers. Pashut. Here, it's a question of sizes. You didn't use the biggest size possible. They're making a hole. That must be for whichever reason. I don't know why. You want it from the side. You want it with burta. Well, Lamaisa, that's your ideal Pesach. If it would be your ideal, but the bigger Pesach, you would have just opened the top. Therefore, it's also. We'll get a better understanding of that in the following sugya. And I have a chart which I want to send you later about, which which involves the up and coming sugya as well. I don't know how this is going to get so much for today, because today we don't have the barrels with the top and the side. But basically, as we saw in the Mishnah, we do have a difference, as we saw in the Mishnah, we'll see more later. We have a difference between making a hole from the side or the top. Let's see the Gemara now. Ein nokvin megufa. I highly, highly, highly recommend you go up to the Mishnah. Yes, according to Mishnah Berurah. Yes, yes. The Mishnah Berurah's opinion is that only if you have guests, you can say that it's mutter to open the chavis and break it. Yes, very good. Yeah. Yeah, do you mind opening the air conditioner? I'm sorry, turn on the. I'm sorry, Matriarch. Thank you. Shkoyach. Thanks so much. Okay, you okay with that? Yeah, of course. Okay, I'm sorry, everybody at home. Yeah, we're okay. We're with you. We're fine. We just need the air conditioner here. What's the weather like in your countries? Yeah, we have different people, different countries listening. Okay, so let's just go back to the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, yeah, you're up with us in the Mishnah, everybody? Shavar odem esachovis lochel min agrogois, belvat shlos kavan lasos kli. You're allowed to break the chovis in order to take out the grogos, as long as you have no kavanah to create a kli. Again, it's the same idea. Make kilkul, destroy the nylon bag, the whatever. The more you destroy, the more you don't make a nice petach. Yeah, let's say the bizli bag, right? It's much better to just tear it rather than being a yakish, nice, young, Anglo mommy, and let's take and make a nice little elegant diagonal Pesach on the side. No, you can do it during the week on Shabbos. Again, it's only a mustik and it's nothing. The more torn, the more destroyed, the better. So the kids can be kids. They can tear the whole thing. The bamba falls on the floor. It's fine. Yeah, the kids. So the point is, you're allowed to be mekalkel, not be metakin, because kilkul for Tzorach Shabbos is allowed. Now comes the point that we're trying to get at. Now the point which the Gemara will talk about is what the Mishnah is saying over here. The en noikvin megufa shel chovis divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. You're not allowed to make a hole in the megufa, in the lid. In the lid of the chavis, don't make a hole in the lid, maybe the top of the lid, maybe, or the side. We're going to see, the Rabbi Yehuda. The chachamim matirin. You're not allowed to perforate the megufa of the chavis according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to chachamim, you're allowed to, yes, make and perforate a hole in the megufa, in the top, in that lid. However, v'lo ikvena mitzida. Everyone agrees, so it seems like from the Mishnah, that if you make the hole on the side of the megufa, that's for sure a problem. Meaning, it sounds like the Mechlokas Rabbi and Chachamim was, if you make a hole in the top, Chachamim allow that. A hole in the top of the chavis of the megufa. A hole on the side is always a problem. Why? We're going to learn why now. Okay? And we're going to learn what I just said now is actually a debate, how to explain the Mishnah. And no gufa. Oh, as always, Baruch Hashem, many times, Baruch Hashem, we have mechloikis amayroim, how to explain the Mishnah. Amar Ravuna, mechloikis lamala. Mechloikis Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim about making a hole in the top of the megufa is the top of the megufa. The top, that's the megufa. Yeah, there's a surface. Boop. Are you allowed to make a hole in the top, yes or no? Well, says Rabbi Yehuda no, and Chachamim say yes. Why yes? You know why? I'll tell you why. To make a Pesach Stam is always a problem. Again, making a hole already is not kilkul. Making a hole in a house, as we're going to see later, if it's a good hole, you need it for air. We just turn on the air conditioning. Yeah. If you need a hole for air to go in through and through, it's a problem. Or even if you have a kli, and we said if you make a nice good hole in the kli, that is a problem. Yeah. So now, those I know that some people hold that the worst kind of kli to use in Shabbos, these cartons which are not like the milk, they have like a small, no, like a small little tap in the corner or in the top, the juices. So to open them for the first time could be the worst one because that could be a kli often, maybe Shmuel would allow it, I don't know, but that could be worse. When you make a nice little opening that lets in and out the air, the wine, the air, that's not good. Now, Machlokes Lamala. Why? Why would Chachamim allow it? Chachamim will tell you that's not the Pesach Yofe. Because if you're looking to make a Pesach, why don't you just open it? Open the whole lid, right? You didn't open the whole lid. The normal way is to open it just remove the lid. If you're not removing the lid, you're just making a hole. That's not the normal professional way to do it. Yeah. Rashi says, "Lav uchel med pischa osam, not al kol hamagufa." That's a crazy way of doing it. That's illegal side, as they write in the magazine. Yeah, that's not the normal way. You're supposed to just open it. Imagine it's on a wine bottle. Instead of opening the wine bottle, you make a hole in the top and you pour it through there. That's crazy. That's a chacham. You say it's okay. That's called not called a nice petach. It's a b'di'eved crazy kind of petach. Okay. אבל מן הצד דברי הכל אסור. דהיינו דקטני לקבנו מצידה. From the side, everyone agrees is osir. Why? Why do the Megufa has some width, as I said, it has some height, width, whatever you want to call it. It has substance. And from the side, that's the Megufa, from the side of the Megufa, to make a hole, everyone says it's osir. Why? I'll tell you why. Because there you can't say, why don't you open in the top? I don't open in the top because you don't want the not the germs, the bugs to come through. In other words, sometimes to make the hole from the side is accepted thing. You want to keep the top completely closed all the time. It's very useful. I want it closed. A chazonishnik never allows the water or the drinks to be exposed for 1 second. There are bugs, there's dust, all kinds of things. I don't want to have a hole in the top, not elegant, not stylish. I want it to be closed in the top, and I wanted the hole to be on the side, and that's my ideal, preferred, legal, beautiful hole. That's not mekalko. That's bad news. So to make the hole from the side is worse because you have an interest to keep the top nice, clean, and absolutely bug free. It says reasons bugs, yeah. The Rav Chizda Omar, similarly, but with the same idea but different application, says Rav Chizda Omar, Machlokes min atzad, or Rabbanan would allow from the side, they would still call it illegal, because they would still believe the normal way to open it, yeah? And Rabbi Yehuda does not allow it. Aval gaba devakol muto, yeah? Al gaba, the top, everyone says it's okay. Because to open in the top, you already want the top to be open, you might as well open the whole thing. You only open in the top because you're doing it in a crazy, nutty way. That's not called tikkun. It says everyone agrees not to be noikiv on the side. Also, begufa the chovis. In the body of the chovis itself, if you make that on the side, that's for sure the good Pesach because the top should stay as it is. You're not touching the megufa. You just want a different kind of hole on the side. Tonu Rabbanon on the same venue. Tonu Rabbanon. And noikvi nekev chodesh b'Shabbos. One is not allowed to open a new opening to perforate a new hole in Shabbos. I'm assuming again what? Well, in the kli. Rashi says bekli, not only chovis, in the kli. V'balehoisif moisif. If you want to add and extend and widen an existing hole, that is allowed. Later we'll know why. And some people say, no, you're not allowed to add. Mapitom. No, no way, you're not allowed to add. Yeah, if you have a hole, making it bigger is as long as you call that hole a good illegal, good, nice, good hole to make it bigger is also. Yeah, if you have something cooking on Shabbos, you can't cook it further, right? And Musifin, and also Rashi says another reason here, and I'll get back to it later. Now, the Shovin, however, everyone agrees shenoikvin ben nekev yoshon lechatchila. Everyone agrees that if you have a hole that was somehow stuffed, was closed up, you're allowed to reopen it, and that's for sure good. Why? Because according to Rashi, that's Rashi I meant before. Rashi says, and binyan v'stir b'kelim always applies. There's no binyan v'stir b'kelim. The only melacha that applies to kelim is maki b'patish. Oh, very good. Maki b'patish, by definition, means either the last blow or something to do with the production of the kli, the last stage of the production of the kli. So if you have a kli on Shabbos and it was meant for you to make the hole, making the hole, mazel tov, making the hole is now what's it? That's now it came to its climax, to its usage. That's makibeh patish. But if that thing was already perforated once before, it was perforated once before, right? Okay, true. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, and thank you. Let's say it was perforated once before. That was the finishing point of the kli. Now, a week later, it became clogged up and stuffed up. That's not makibeh patish, right? True. When you clean your clothes, which you bought a year ago, now you re-clean them. That's not called makir bepatish. It's been already ready. What's the question online? Well, we spoke about that already. Hmm? Fine. I don't know. Okay, weiter. Frag the Gemara. Now the Gemara is asking on what we just said. V'tanakama, ma'ishna menekev chodesh deloi dekametaken. Why aren't you allowed to make a new petach, a nice, new lechatchila dika, elegant, stylish, good petach? That will be your petach. Yeah, the kamet.
You're muted, Rav. Rav, can you unmute? Uh-oh. Rabbi.
I think he's totally cut off.
No, he has to unmute. Unmute, Rav.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the glitch again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please unmute and thank you so much. Let's continue. Basically, the question is as follows. If making a hole in Shabbos, a good, nice, amazing hole, is a problem of tikkun, say maki bepatish. If so, the Gemara asks the question, osufi nami kametaken pischa, right? When you add to the hole, you're also metaken. Let's say your hole is not good enough, not big enough, not elegant enough. You want to make it bigger and better. It's also osir. And by the way, one of the toldus of Bone is not only rebuild, even you add to the building. Mefurish, all yeah. So how come it's all of a sudden allowed? Omar Rabba, here comes Rabba with a whacking chiddush. Dvar Torah midoraisa kol Pesach she'en oisu lachnis elotzi eino Pesach. Opa. This Pesach of the wine, I told you before, it's meant to take out the wine. Maybe it's meant to bring in air. Says the Gemara, oh no. The kind of opening in a kli that's only meant to take out wine, yeah, to exit the wine, but not to bring anything in. I don't need anything to come in, right? The wine was very nice there before without the Pesach. It's a one directional, as we say in Hebrew, chad sitri. It's only going from inside to the outside. I have no interest that this petach, that this perforation, that hole will also bring something in and out, only out. That is only also midorabonon. A Pesach which is only unidirectional, unilateral, only one side is only also midorabonon. So the Rabbanon who the gozer mishum lul shel tarnegoilin. The reason why Rabbanon made a gzera on a Pesach that is not bidirectional, the Ovid le'yuli avira v'lepuki hevla. Lul shel tarnegoilin we'll discuss in Daf Kuf Beis. You have a chicken coop. Chicken coop, if you make a hole in the chicken coop, even a small one, that is a problem of bone or makir bepatish, machlokes Rav Shmuel, but it's a problem. It's also the oraisa. Why? Because that is a bi-directional. The idea is you want air. The chicken, miskenim, the chicken, they need air in the inside, and you also want, the Gemara says, the stench of the chicken coop, you want it out. Very nice. Therefore, even though our petach is not lo lachnis, we still made a gzera. Don't make a hole in the chavis because, in a way, it's similar to the one of Lul Shel Tarnegolim, even though it's not exactly the same. However, so why is lo hoisif okay? Are you answering my question? Why am I allowed to add and expand and extend that Lul Shel, the opening of the chavis? V'ba lo hoisif moisif osufi. Why? Vade belushot and negolim lo osilo sufi. In the lushot and negolim, which is the father of all evils, the reason for the gzera, people never make a bigger hole mishum richsha, because we're scared of bugs, or more than bugs, of rodents who may come to the lul and kill the tarnegolim. So lushot and negolim, we have an interest. The chicken guy, the farmer Jack. He only wants a small hole, enough for the air in and air out and stench out. But he doesn't want a much bigger hole because he doesn't want the nemiyah, all kinds of rats, and bad animals or little foxes to come into the lul, into the coop. He doesn't want that. Mimela, very good. Since the makor, the source for the reason not to make an opening. The reason for the gzera is also to negoilim. To make a hole is osir. But in the chodis, to extend the hole is not a problem. Because even the one which is the original Isser Doraisa, there's never extending it. There's no interest in extending it. Therefore, too, very good. Therefore, here too, there's no Isser to extend it. Rabbanon, excuse the pun, did not extend the Gzera to extending the hole, because in the original cause for the Gzera, the original concern, there would never be opening a bigger hole. Email here too, it's allowed. I wish I could go 3 more lines, but I have to rush to Ma'ariv. Guys, you're amazing. Thank you for your support over the email and in Zoom, and everybody over here and everybody on Torah Anytime. We are going to finish this Masechta with lots of understanding, and Be'ezras Hashem know how to keep Shabbos very well. It's a lifetime mission. Atzlachu bracha. Thank you very, very much, and I'll tell you all good night, and I'll send you the link later. Share it with the family and friends. Kol tuv, atzlacha uvrocha.